Hey guys, Dan Klein here, Brad Campbell. We have a special guest tonight that we're going to go through some training with. Obviously, the Tuesday call, we generally touch on strategy, how to move your business forward, or we work on interviews of people that are moving their business forward that we can learn from and we can implement some of the stuff that they're doing. Tonight, what I want to do is, I'm going to backtrack 1 second. If you're brand new, welcome. If you're just a couple weeks into this, whatever week that you're in, you can always go back to that week. If you're on week 1, there's a call that's associated with that week, but we're glad you're on this call as well, because this is, I think, some very, very important information for everyone to have. I'm going to go through that in just a moment here and kind of tell you why. But yeah, so if depending on whatever week you're in, I think this is fantastic information. And then I want to kind of preface the whole entire training of what we're going to go through today with just a couple kind of key elements of why I thought it was so important to get Gordon on the line and have him walk through what he built for himself and then kindly shared with us, Brad and myself, last week. But basically, I talk to people every day. Brad talks to people every day. We all talk to people every day that are looking to move their life, their business forward. And oftentimes I see, and we've all been guilty of it. We jump into opportunities or we jump into things with a couple, we get, I guess, sold into things that are, you're at the right time, you're at the right place, you're at this is the launch of a new product. And we see it every day. I see it right now with some huge MLMs that are launching, and I see a lot of people jumping in, even inside JobKilling. But they're jumping in for all the wrong reasons. They're not jumping in because they're planning their business like a real business is planned. And I think oftentimes if you look at the most successful businesses or what investors invest in, what you'll notice is there's always a plan. There's always something that was put in place before an investor would plunk down some money or before a bank would give someone a loan. Before any of that happens, there was a plan put in place on how they were going to get to where they wanted to go, and an exact plan. And I think the JobKilling program is as close to a plan as probably a lot of you guys have ever been through to execute something step by step by step by step, but I think we probably even left out a very important step, which is helping you see where you want to go and exactly how you need to get there. I think we've taught you the tools and the foundational aspects of what you need to do and the skill sets and the processes to be able to execute it, which all of you guys are doing fantastic with. But I think Gordon has brought something to my attention that makes perfect sense. It's probably something that I'm not great at. I'm kind of a shoot, fire, aim type of a guy, and I work on the skill sets. And I know we got some guys like that and some gals like that in the group. But I think what we're going to go through today, will help you guys with whatever your current goals are, because you're going to have all the skill sets to be able to produce this product. So I've heard a lot of people logging on. That's awesome. Go ahead, jump into the Facebook group. We have a document that you guys need to look at for this call to follow along with. I posted it about 15, 16 minutes ago. Hit the preview button or download it into Excel. And what I want to do next is kind of turn it over to Gordon. Gordon has only been with us for a couple of weeks now, but Gordon is kind of a world-renowned speaker and trader, financial analysis trader in the Forex market. He's produced pretty major softwares for huge institutions. Speaks on the radio and speaks in the financial world. And I had a really good conversation with him yesterday. Learned a lot about each other, and definitely a great guy to listen to. But Gordon got into this for a couple of different reasons, but he's got a 15-year-old son who he's going to be going through with this because his son is kind of a whiz-bang on the computer, and he wants to teach him the skills of the internet early because he knows that these skill sets will be, great into the future. And so I guess without further ado, Gordon, I want to kind of welcome you. Tell us a little bit about, you, and then kind of start walking us through this financial model for the JobKilling program and explaining it to everyone who's on the call.
Well, sure, Dan. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I guess,
thank you.
My history and what I do as a wealth consultant, financial analyst is really pretty simple. I discovered in the 7th grade that you can make a lot of money with math.
Yep.
So everything I do, currency trading, software development, everything really involves percentages, fractions, multiples, ratios, things we all learned before we even got to high school. It's amazing how much money you can make if you let mathematics lead the way and try to remove emotion from the process. Of course, I've been teaching currency trading for a number of years, and I've always said that Data and Mr. Spock on Star Trek would make great traders because they don't have any emotion circuits, and for people it's kind of difficult. But it's just, I like to joke. I was born to make spreadsheets. I can't help myself. I wake up in the middle of the night and make spreadsheets. So when I started learning your program, I said, wow, this is great. This really lends itself to really forecasting cash flow. And I wanted to be able to turn to my son, who is really amazing on computers, and be able to say, look, here's what you could do with for him it would be a part-time effort because he's in school. But here's what you could do with a part or full-time effort and just break it out. So there's nothing really fancy here. It may look complicated. Spreadsheets are really pretty easy. They're just glorified calculators. And so I didn't want to spend a lot of time talking about me unless you had any questions about me or what I do. I thought it would be more beneficial just to get into how this could help everybody.
I think for this call, I think the key is, I think in some of the things you were telling me yesterday is, because you do financial planning, right? And so,
yeah.
Some of the things that you were just giving me advice on, I don't want to necessarily get into that today, but the underlying thing that I heard through that phone call was plan, and plan some more. And
sure.
I think for everyone on this phone call, we have such a huge walk of life. We have people that have never been in business for themselves, and
sure.
this is their first crack at it. We have people that have tried umpteen network marketing companies and failed, not because you can't make money in those companies, but just because they got in for the wrong reasons. And now we have everyone with this skill set, and everyone has this desire to generate income, and now a skill set that can support the desire. But how do they go about planning it? And I just think it's really cool when you start walking us through this, how you did this for your son. So I think, I'd like to jump right into the spreadsheet. And guys, if you just logged on, just jump into the Facebook group. I posted the file so you guys can follow along with what Gordon's going to walk us through, and then you guys can download it and plug in your own numbers. He'll kind of tell you where to plug in the numbers, what each thing means, because he used his own nomenclature for this stuff.
Sure. Well, I have to clarify before I start that I'm not a financial planner. I actually help people make money.
There you go. Even better.
With no offense to any financial planners who may be on the call. Well, first of all, for folks who don't know what a spreadsheet is, a lot of people are intimidated. They hear the word spreadsheet and their brain freezes. Spreadsheets are really simple to understand. So across the top, you have columns labeled A through, let me get this out of the way, A through Q, I guess we're using. And then down the left, you have rows, 1 through, I think we're using down to row 25. So if I were to say, for example, cell B4, you just go to column B and then to row 4. And where those intersect, you'll see there's the number 12. The digit 12 has been placed in that. So that's the reference of that cell, cell B4. Cell B13 has $300 in it at the bottom of that shaded gray area. Now, proper spreadsheet construction, you put all your inputs in an area. I like to use the upper left-hand corner. So the cells that are shaded gray are inputs. They're manual inputs. You type whatever number you want in there, and all the rest of the cells in the spreadsheet are computed based on the inputs that you put in. And the beautiful thing about it is it lets you play what are called what-if scenarios. So you can say, well, what if I worked 4 hours a day and not 3? What if I could get $15 for a lead from such and such a niche and not 10? What if I wanted to make $20,000 a month? Or the average sale, the niche's business, like it's a carpet cleaning company. What is their actual piece of business when they go to in someone's home and clean their carpets? Up here, it might be 200. In New England, in a more affluent area, it might be 400. It's all variable. So you can play with it, and then everything else in the spreadsheet is calculated. Now, does anybody have any questions on that so far? Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me, but everyone's on mute. So
they're on mute. Gotcha. Okay.
I'm going to be watching the Facebook group. So
okay.
If people have questions, I'll be relaying them. So just post them under the profit analysis in Facebook if you guys do have any questions that you want me to relay.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to try to go through this quickly and not take up too much time on this call. But some of the numbers that I've put in here, I'm 2 weeks into this. I'm a newbie. So some of these numbers, any one of you may feel are not accurate, and I'm going to defer to Dan and Brad to let you guys know what the correct number should be. But I heard it mentioned on one of the calls that it might take 11 hours. Now, once you've been through the whole course, my question was, how many hours would it take per niche moving forward once you've mastered the process? Just the clicking and just the time it takes to go through every step of the process. And I think I heard 11 hours, Dan, thrown out somewhere.
Yep.
So I said 12.
Good average. Yep.
Yeah, I said let's be conservative and call it 12. Now, for someone who's slower with computers, it might be 20. For someone who's a whiz, it might be 9. But so again, these numbers are not exactly plucked out of the air, but they're just a place to start. Value of a lead, $10, and that maybe it's going to end up becoming 15 or 20 if you've got a good limo market. And again, you guys know what these numbers are better than I do. Monthly goal.
Let me just touch on that real quick so people can, sometimes people are selling this as a flat fee. Some people are selling this as a rev share as we teach. So really, what you're going to figure out from that is you can take, if it's a rev share and at the end of the month you generate X amount of dollars, you can divide it down and figure out kind of the rough idea of how many leads you're getting to how many sales to get that. And we can always come out with more spreadsheets that will do rev share models as well. This is just on a kind of a per lead basis to give basic numbers for everyone.
Sure. I'll be happy to participate and help spiff this up and improve it in the future based on anybody's input. And then B6, monthly goal. What's your goal? For one person, it might be $1,000 a month. Next person wants to make $100,000 a month, which is fine. Average leads per niche site per day. Well, this is the websites that we're being taught to develop. This is our limo site, let's say, which is my brand new first site. How many leads per day is it realistic to get? Well, that's going to depend on what a good job I do of optimizing it. It's going to depend on the market I'm in and how competitive that market is. And again, this is all variable. So I just put in a really low number just to be conservative and overly realistic. And then the next two, which I'm in cells B8 and 9 now, mogul hours worked per day and worked per week. How many hours a day do you have to put into this? Again, it could be 12, it could be 2, just depending on your current situation. No right or wrong. And then how many days per week? If you want to take the weekend off, 2 days off for good behavior, as I like to put it. Maybe you're working 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. You're putting in 15 hours a week. Pretty simple math. And then prospects per deal. Now, what is this? Oh, yeah. This is... these aren't labeled very well. These next 2 or 3 could be relabeled a little bit better. But the idea here is, how many limo companies am I going to have to go speak to and negotiate with to land one? So prospects means, from my point of view, the niche as a prospect to me. Is it limo company A, or do I end up working with limo company B and playing them off of each other? And then B11 is, how much time am I going to spend with each prospect? Now, this is really... you could put almost any number in here, because to be really realistic, you might have 2 or 3 meetings. You might get an attorney involved, draw up some documents. You might go back and meet with them and take them their 3rd cup of coffee. And, an hour might be unrealistically small, but even if it's 2 or 3 hours, it's hardly going to affect the outcome of the spreadsheet. But you can see for yourself. Just plug some numbers in there, and you'll watch all the rest of the numbers on the spreadsheet change instantly, because they're all recalculated based on any value in this gray area. Niche leads required per sale. Again, this is from the niches side of the equation. This probably could be labeled a little bit better. But if you're dealing with a carpet cleaning company or a towing company or a limo company, how many phone calls do they have to answer? Leads. These are the leads that you've sent them in order to close one piece of business. If they're taking 10 phone calls and they're closing 2 pieces of business, well, that's 5 per one. That's 5 phone calls for 1 piece of business. So the idea here is, how many leads you have to feed them until they close 1 piece of business. And then B13, the bottom of this range, is what is that business to them? If it's a carpet cleaning company, it's at $200, for an average home cleaning. If it's a limo company, it's at $300 per average trip. And these are all the variables. Now, any questions on that? I should take a breath here and ask if anybody any of those.
Here. I'm seeing no questions thus far, just a lot of thank yous on the Facebook wall for everyone who said they're very unorganized and failed Excel class. But no, I think all is good so far. It's making sense to me. I'm sure if people have questions, they'll post them.
All right, cool. And then now we're moving into a calculated area. And some of this, I have to admit, this is data-holic overkill. I mean, you really don't need this level of data. It's just it's my nature. This is kind of me with my pocket protector. But Cells B16 through 18 is like basically how many new sites are you creating a week? Well, 1.3 would mean you didn't quite get the second one done. You're not even halfway into the second one. You're getting a little over 5 done a month, 5.4. You're creating about 65 new niche sites per year. Now, if I go up and I change the values in how many hours I'm working a day and how many days a week I'm working, then obviously those numbers are going to change instantly. And if you've already downloaded the spreadsheet, you're not just looking at it in the preview mode on Facebook. You can be playing around with these numbers already. And then at the bottom of this left-hand area, which is columns B, C, and D, and I'm in rows 20 through 25, it says niche sales in total. This basically is, you add up the prospecting time, you add up the site development time, and this is your total hours. So basically 17.3 hours a week based on those numbers above. And that's a part-time job. Most people can find 17 hours a week to do something they really want to do. And I'll get to cell D6, which is shaded light yellow, is actually a calculated cell, uses a more sophisticated lookup function. It basically says how many months is it going to take me to get to my monthly goal of $10,000 based on the assumptions made in these inputs. And again, as I'm sure these gentlemen will tell you, there are no guarantees here. This is a model. So going across columns F through Q, it's just month 1 through 12. It's just looking out, a year ahead. And you got to round to the nearest whole site. So the spreadsheet automatically, if you're using the spreadsheet live on your computer and you put your cursor in cell F4 and then look up at the formula up at the top, or hit the F2 key, which puts the spreadsheet into edit mode, and then you can see the underlying formula under each cell. So this is a rounding.
Wait. Hold on. Let me because you're
going too fast.
I'm catching, but I've been through this twice, so so basically on the niche sites created where it says 5, just so everyone understands, that's rounded down to the lowest because you can't have. So people understand that. So why it's not exact numbers.
Yeah, it could have rounded up to 6 if it were 5.5. It would have rounded up to 6, but it has to be a whole number, obviously.
Yep.
So, and so if you've got 5 at the end of month 1, we should assume that every one of these is the end of the month. End of month 1, end of month 2, end of month 3. So if I'm averaging 2 leads per day, which is over in cell B7, and I'm creating 5 niches a month, and the average leads coming in per niche is 2 a day, which is probably going to be pretty low, then I'd be selling 10 leads a day. Now, if the value of each of those leads is $10, then I'm going to be producing 300. Well, first of all, I'm going to be producing 304 leads a month because they're a little over 30 days in a month. If you take 365 and divide it by 12, and you multiply by the value of a lead, and you've got about $3,042 a month coming in from all of those assumptions in the gray area. So just recap a little more slowly. The end of month 1, you've created 5 niches. You've got about 2 leads a day coming in. The average value of a lead is $10. Again, this is pretty simple math, 7th grade math. You got $3,000 a month, and if you annualize that in cell F8, it's about $36,000 a year. And then, this is the fun part, if you divide it by the number of hours that you put in working that month, you've just earned about $41 an hour, which is just a little bit better than being a manager at Wendy's, for any of you who are still coming out of high school.
Yep.
Just a little. Matter of fact, you probably have to be a regional manager and you wouldn't make $41 an hour. And then the rest of it just multiplies across. So by the end, see, this is all cumulative. That's why one of the beautiful things about this business model is it's residual income, and it's cumulative residual income. So the end of month 2, you've got the same 5 niche sites you created in month 1, but now you got 5 more, assuming you're working at the same rate, hours per day, days per week. So now you've got 10 sites, and you're bringing in 20 leads a day. And their value, you're getting 608 leads a month coming in. Now you're making $6,000 a month. And by the end of month 6, if you skip over to column K, you're up to $18,000 a month, and you're making $243 a day. So you can see for yourself that this is just it's building out the model. I think what you say, rinse, wash, repeat, whatever. But that's true. You can this is where you can outsource. You can have the entire country of the Philippines outsourcing for you, building niche sites. Timothy Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week, if you guys haven't mentioned that in the past, is a wonderful book. And he talks about efficiency, how to work for yourself and be very efficient, and how to outsource a lot of the things that you don't want to do. And then going down to the last 2 areas, local niche, sales closed per every 10 leads, gross income per 10 leads. This is to the niche, not to you. Okay, so again, it's you're sending them 2 leads a day, and their average piece of business is $300. You're bringing them $600 a day, And so their cost of 10 leads is $100 because you're charging them $10 a lead. So their net income after paying for the leads you sold them is $500. And then the very last area, the value to the niche, their net income is therefore $50 per lead, and yet they're only paying you 10. So the ratio, the reward to cost ratio, is they're earning 5 times as much as you're charging them. And this would be the other models of how to go on the other business models to work with local vendors, niches, could be incorporated into the spreadsheet later. This is just on the simplistic, generate leads and sell them to the model. So that's it.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot one thing. The months to goal in D6, that just simply says that if you want 10,000 a month, you'd be pretty close to that at the end of month 3. So if you look in month 3, row 7 says $9,125. And that's, the spreadsheet is picking that up and saying you're basically there at the end of month 3. So if your monthly goal is 10,000 a month and everything goes smoothly, you could be there at the end of just 90 days.
Okay,
so that's
here's
it.
a good, thank you. That's awesome. And I know I got people posting up, and the question that Dave just asked in the group, he said, this is probably a question for both Brad and I. He says, what do you think is the greatest lever? Hours worked, dollars per lead. I can play with the numbers, what the numbers say, but Dan, what would experience tell you? Well, obviously, I think the greatest lever is dollars per lead, because if it was $100 a lead, then that would all go up by 10x. But is that really reasonable? So probably not. So I think the way that, like, I think the best way to answer that question of, like, what's the number one thing you can do to influence your income at a quicker pace? And to me, it would be getting into more niches. So changing that niche, because I think there's always going to be a price barrier. There's always going to be a price barrier on how much a lead can be worth in most of the niches that we get into. They're never going to go up $100, $200. It's never going to happen. So $10 is probably a pretty good average to keep across the board. So to me, and again, I'm shooting off the top of my head. If I had to think through this without using math, I would say that the number of niches I was going to get into per month was going to be the greatest lever that you could influence, because you can take your time of the amount of hours you work and you could start cutting that up, which someone in the group, Chris McCann, has done very, very well. He started to cut the process up into a place where this person does this person does that, this person does this, and he's created almost like a machine. And so to me, then the machine would say, if you went and Gordon, maybe you could, I don't have Excel up, I have it on preview, but if you typed in
Sure.
the how many niches a month, or is that, so it'd have to be.
Well, the only way I could do that right now, Dan, would just be increase how many hours.
The hours.
Yeah, so let's say 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd be doing about 12,000 a month at the end of the first month, and at the end of a year, a spreadsheet won't. It's like $1.7 million.
Yeah. So I think that, like, that's why we've kind of harped on the idea of more niches, and quickly more niches. And now, unfortunately, and fortunately, it's a split sides in this, but we train you to just go into one niche because we're so big on skill set and process, because the worst thing you can do to a business is try to grow it too fast before you actually have the mechanisms in place to be able to handle it. And oftentimes people are just chasing dollars and they're not smart about how they're growing their business. So they'll forget major pieces of the process that could increase those leads from 2 leads a day to 5 leads a day. And it's actually costing them more money in the long run. So we teach you guys the process, and we teach you guys in that singular niche inside Limo, not because we want you to stop with Limo and this is like the end all be all for your business. We teach it to you so you have that foundation and that profit account so pat that you can start to scale and you could start to move into multiple niches and start kind of expanding your business. That, I don't know if Dave, well, you can't answer me, but I'm sure that kind of answers your question. Gordon, what's your thoughts on that from what's the greatest lever you think would increase?
I agree. Quality quality over quantity. I mean, you really need to know what you're doing in this industry. It's really clear. This is a real business. It's really clear to me. This is a very finessed, high intellectual level skill set that almost nobody knows how to do. This looks like black magic and voodoo to the average small business person. It really does. So I'm going to make it a point to do my best. I'm sure I'll make mistakes, as you know, but that's what the question and answer sessions on Thursday are for. But the point is to become really good at this, to become a master of it. And then when you've got it down, well, then you can just go crazy and have all kinds of fun putting up niches, as long as you don't let the quality slip. But I agree that the number one lever would be the number of niches you can put up. And there are only so many hours I can work in a week. So as soon as I have my first couple up and they're running smoothly and I've corrected my errors and I think I've done the best job I can do, I'm just going to start building the model out from there, and I'm going to outsource it.
Right. And we'll get into that. You know, that we're going to train on that in the future. But for us, with everyone, and you know what Brad and I have set out to do for the Job Killing group is get you guys equipped with real skill sets. I think nothing frustrates me more than seeing good members in our group that are being taught like life-changing skill sets, jump into opportunities that take no skills, that are all hype. And I'm seeing it every day right now. It's going across the internet right now of these guys that unrealistic numbers, unrealistic, no real business plan. Oh, go hit up your friends and family, stuff like that. Those are not skill sets. Yes, it takes, I mean, they are in like basic networking skills, but ultimately I believe in building a long-term business with a plan and with skill sets that kind of support it. And I really appreciate, Gordon, you jumping on and kind of walking us through this. And, you know, I'm sure because I'm not a great spreadsheet guy, but I'm sure I'll throw some spreadsheet things at you that we could add to this thing and just keep kind of coming up with cool ways to, you know, cool ways to show to even the business owners, because I think that's a great thing to show them, like the local niche. I don't know if everyone caught that, but like the local niche, the limo, it shows the closed sales per leads. Like, what a great way to execute and show your value to a business.
Oh, sure, you know, Dan. If I could comment on that,
yeah,
and you and I could collaborate on this. But you could put together a spreadsheet and have it on a tablet. You could go into a small business and say, just do an interview. Say, what are your advertising costs? What have you been spending for the coffee news and those placemats they put down in diners with your little $50 a month ad on it that doesn't draw anything? And have you paid for SEO in the past? And find out what their costs are currently and how that's working for them. And then you ask them, you know, do you answer the phone when it rings? Because a lot of businesses don't. You know, do you actually answer the phone? Do you take your marketing seriously? And then how many people do you have to speak to? If you're a carpet company, how many quote requests are you going to get before you close one piece of business? Go out and actually schedule to clean their carpets. And they might actually never have thought that through before. They kind of instinctively know, but they might say, gee, I don't know, 4, 5, 6. So you say, okay, so 6. We'll take the worst case scenario. And then you can turn around and show them what they're paying on an advertising basis per piece of business they're closing. They may never have known that before. So now you're a consultant, you're bringing value, and you're really coming in from a position of strength and authority. Then you say, well, now let me show you what I can do. We flip the whole risk thing around. You have no risk. I take the risk. I deliver to you, even start delivering before I ask you for a penny to prove that I'm setting the expectation. And it'd be a great way to go in and present to a small business. You probably close them right on the spot.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. When I was in the daily deal space, and for those of you guys that don't know that my background, I sold my daily deal company, the day Groupon went public. And we actually used a very similar technique when selling local businesses, because that's all we worked with. It was same types of businesses that I'm teaching you guys this model. We just did it a little differently. And for those of you guys that don't know the model, it was we'd send an email out, 50% off, and then we would take half of the sales that were generated, and the restaurant or business would take 50% of the other sales. And we did the exact same thing. We broke it down to them in a spreadsheet. I think I ripped it from Groupon one time. I found I think I bribed one of their sales reps to give it to me. And I'm sure they had some smart people working on it because it worked incredibly well. And we were able to show the value of, hey, yeah, we'll sell 100 vouchers. And yes, you're only getting a quarter of the money. But when they return, what's your average value? Oh, it's $22 a head. Okay, great. Well, 20% of these people, 100 people that bought are going to return, and look at the actual value you're going to get. So I know a spreadsheet, and we'll collaborate on that and come up with something for everyone, and you know, have some more tools for sales. because this stuff is fun, and there's some business owners are very much driven by analytical type stuff like this. On the flip side, obviously emotion is what sells, but it doesn't hurt to have the both of them. It doesn't hurt to have the analytical side to show them the numbers of it, especially when you can put them in kind of the numbers that you want to plug in. But yeah, I think it was great stuff. One of the things Dave just asked, he said, something that would be very helpful would be a tab or key for each niche that reflects what we should be getting on a minimum. Let us know if we are on target. So on that, kind of speaking on that, I think that could be a, what's the word? It's kind of a tough one to answer because different markets bear different things. And I'm under the school of thought that close the deal and get the money coming in and figure out later if there's more money that you left on the table. And so like I've always done all my sales in this arena from a total position of what's the value of the product they're selling if it's $300. And I think you can use some of this stuff like the value if they take 10 phone calls and close 2 and the reward cost ratio. I think that can help you with your pricing, but I don't think there's a perfect number that you should be on pace with. What I would be on pace with is having your monthly goal and adjusting it to, if your monthly goal is $10K a month, I would be adjusting your actions, not your pricing. Okay. I'd be adjusting your actions because I think that's actually something that you have a little bit more control over than price pressures in a market. I think a carpet cleaner, in a specific market, there's a price pressure and there's probably a max that you're going to get them to go. And so I would adjust your actions in the other place and probably add another niche. But we can work on that stuff, and I think I have a thing posted in the file section too with Home Advisor. I posted it up a while ago, and if it's not in there, I'll post it again. But what they're charging per shared lead right now, and Home Advisor, for those of you guys don't know, was Service Magic. It's a multi-billion-dollar company, and all they do is sell leads to local businesses, and mostly in the home service niche. And there's a range, and I grabbed when they were at Service Magic, I grabbed their lead list. And the funny thing about them is they share their leads. So it's like if it's a carpet cleaner lead, it goes to 5 carpet cleaners, and they're charging $25 to all 5 carpet cleaners. And then those carpet cleaners got to fight it out. Now, with that being said, freaking people hate Home Advisor because they're like, by the time I call my lead, they're already bought somewhere else. But Home Advisor says, well, if you don't want our leads, don't buy our leads. But people keep buying them. So you can look at that. But there's a ton of different ways we can tweak this. Brad, I know you're usually in. I don't know if it's a good time because I know you got sometimes kiddos in the background. So if it's not, no big deal. Do you got anything you would like to add or anything that you want to talk about? Might be. No. Okay. Brad's on mute. Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions, but yeah, Gordon, I really appreciate you jumping on with us, and we'll keep working through this. And guys, that's all I got for you for today. Hopefully this was great, and download this and tweak with it and get your goals on the books, and we'll see you guys on Thursday's call.
Thank you. Good night.